Hello, everybody. My name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today, we'll be diving back into the Southern Baptist Convention and we'll be talking about the latest developments in their sex abuse scandal. And we'll be talking about how their law firm sent a breakup letter to the Southern Baptist Convention. And basically, they are without a lawyer and they are also without attorney client privilege as they are about to have their books completely opened by a pagan law firm. So, that's really smart. So let's dive into this issue. So at the annual Southern Baptist Convention of 2021, there was a not a resolution, but a motion brought forth, and they brought out a pawn to help manipulate the audience emotionally, and the messengers were pretty unwise to what was going on. So they seconded a motion, which is all it takes, I believe. Is all you need is a motion to get seconded out of a crowd of 10,000. So like every motion got seconded basically at the SBC from what I watched. So basically, this motion was seconded and it called for an investigation of sex abuse and sex abuse cover ups, and not just sex abuse cover ups, but also hesitance and resistance to reforms, which could be anything, or intimidation of people, of activists and stuff like that. It was a very broad scope investigation, which you could be guilty of. According to this investigation, if you disagreed with people like Rachel Denhollander, you would be found guilty and lumped in with the people that may have actually committed sex abuse and sex crimes. You would be lumped in with them by virtue of the scope of this investigation. So there's a lot of problems with the premise of this investigation. Its scope was too broad. It called for the executive committee only the executive committee to waive the attorney-client privilege. And the thing about the executive committee is the executive committee is more conservative than the other parts of the Southern Baptist Convention. This is like your conservative wing here, and it's because the executive committee is a Southern Baptist parliament, so to speak, that functions as the annual Southern Baptist Convention when the convention's not in session. So they have the executive committee, which is really a parliament by the amount of people that are on it. It's not really a committee. So they operate as the Southern Baptist Convention while the convention is not in session, because the convention's only in session once a day for a few days a year. Makes sense? But only this committee, which, it's not like they meet every single day. It's not like they're on the, in day-to-day action. At most, these people are like state legislatures, specifically the kinds that meet for a session, then go back to their homes, and then, don't come back till the next year type of thing. It's closer to that in terms of what they actually accomplished there, just a humble guy saying that. But this executive committee is more conservative than the other cooperative programs, other Southern Baptist entities. And I would also argue that the executive committee is actually more conservative than the average messenger of the Southern Baptist Convention. Because if you look at the annual Southern Baptist Convention of 2021, 60% on the first ballot voted for a liberal candidate for president of the Southern Baptist Convention. So the liberal, 60% of your convention is liberal. They voted for either Al Mohler, who enables liberalism, or Ed Litton, who is a flaming liberal. So 60% of the Southern Baptist Convention messengers are on the left, they're liberal. And 40%, and I think that 40% has a greater representation in the executive committee than they did on the convention floor. Yet only this group is being asked to waive attorney-client privilege for accusations levied by Russell Moore on his way out the door. So again, Russell Moore leaked a fake letter. I believe it was a fake letter because no one, you don't write internal letters that are written for a broad and general audience. That's not how internal letters work. You don't need to explain to J.D. Greer who certain people are. He already knows who these people are. This was clearly written for a broad general group, a general audience. It was not written for an internal use. So these are entirely fabricated letters, in my opinion, and it doesn't seem like there's any surface of I received these letters, these are genuine. You haven't really seen that in the over the summer since it's became known. I believe this was a story back in May. So let's fast forward to now. After much debate and battle, maybe not that much debate, but this executive committee did acquiesce and they waived their attorney-client privilege following the request of the naive messengers of the Southern Baptist Convention. And again, the messengers of the Southern Baptist Convention have no right to ask people to rescind their attorney-client privilege. They have no right to do that. That is not within their jurisdiction as messengers of the Southern Baptist Convention. That is not a reasonable demand. And the fact that they didn't have enough evidence to substantiate what was going on, like the investigation of sex abuse within the Southern Baptist Convention is a very vague one at that. Because the idea is it's not happening. It's not the individual churches where, this stuff happens. It's an evil that exists. And unfortunately does happen in the church. But that's not exactly what this investigation is about. It's about how what happens at a local church somehow makes its way up to the executive committee, which is not how Baptist polity works. And the executive committee, from the top down, is trying to cover up sex abuse. That's basically what they're being accused of doing. They're trying to cover up. The executive committee is trying to cover up sex abuse and intimidate victims and resist reforms or something like that. What sex abuse specifically are they trying to cover up? Don't know. Who's accused of sex abusing that they're trying to cover up? Don't know. We don't. So just to again make a legal analogy, we didn't exactly have enough for a grand jury indictment for an investigation or a preliminary hearing. Like, we didn't meet a threshold to open up an investigation, in my opinion. We had a shady letter, and, that's very comparable to the Steele dossier. And that's it. That's what this entire thing is based off of. And that letter was enough to manipulate, actually not enough to manipulate, because again, in the Southern Baptist Convention, you only need a second for a motion to be submitted to the executive committee. It's not rocket science. It's not, you only need 1 second out of like 10,000 people. It's not a huge threshold that they needed to meet, and they met it quite easily. So with that said, let's move on to the latest development in this story, and it's a breakup letter. A breakup letter. Don't you just love that? The SBC's legal counsel resigns after the executive committee pressured into waiving attorney-client privilege. So let's actually read the letter. This comes from Reformation Charlotte, which is one of the most linked or clicked on sites, external links on the Evangelical Dark Web website. And I don't even know how often I even link them, because it's not super often, but a lot of things that are read definitely or link them sometimes. So this is a breakup letter. That's what it is. And it's addressed to Ronnie Floyd and other people within the Southern Baptist Convention. And I really like this paragraph right here. The attorney-client privilege has been portrayed by some as an evil device by which misconduct is somehow allowed to be secreted so wrongdoers can escape justice and defeat legal rights of others. That could not be further from the truth. In fact, attorney-client privilege has been for centuries a pillar of this country's jurisprudence and rules of evidence. The concept is rooted in a principle of judicial fairness and a belief that our nation of laws is best served if persons and entities can communicate with their legal counsel freely and confidentially. There is nothing sinister about it. It does not corrupt justice. It creates the space for justice. Sadly, we understand the executive committee's decision to convey a negative attitude about the attorney-client privilege, which it and the convention enjoy. The decision causes us to carefully consider the prospect of moving forward as we try to represent the Executive Committee and the convention in an alien environment. We simply do not know how to advise a client and otherwise represent a client with the quality of advice and representation the client must have, and keeping with the standard of practice our firm tries to uphold when the client has indicated a willingness to forego this universally accepted principle of confidentiality. For this reason, we believe our commitment to a certain standard of professional conduct leaves us no choice but to advise you that we are withdrawing from our role as general counsel to the Southern Baptist Convention and the Executive Committee of the Southern Baptist Convention. Wow. So that's a breakup text. That is a breakup text. Have you ever been broken up, via text? I certainly have, and that's what that looks like. So with that said, it's also saying that they're too stupid to be our client. Like I get some Don Draper vibes out of James P. Gunther's letter here. He's sending some Don Draper vibes where I'm gonna break up with you. And before you break up with me, and I'm going to make it look like I'm breaking up with you. Those are the vibes I'm getting out of this, and he wants to send a message, this law firm does, that, if you guys want to play stupid games, you can win stupid prizes. If you guys want to play stupid games, you can win stupid prizes. And the Southern Baptist Convention, they've gotten themselves into some stupid games. It was entirely stupid to waive attorney-client privilege based on the threshold of lack of evidence used to initiate an investigation. And, no matter, they got a lot of money to give to pagan law firms. So that's all I got to say about that. Again, this is a developing story, but it's also kind of an unimportant story. It's not the most important story in the world, because I think the Southern Baptist Convention is too far gone. There's no use in saving this convention. And the fact that they're just making more stupid decisions means that they don't really want to be saved. I mean, think about it. 60% of their messengers at a very packed Southern Baptist Convention of 2021 voted for a liberal candidate on the first ballot. 60%. These people live under rocks, and you can't wake up everything, and only God can fix stupid. And I think a lot of these messengers were stupid. They are unaware. They're not fit for the times, or they're given over. I mean, if we want to review my notes from these annual Southern Baptist Convention of 2021, we can review the fact that they voted for it's okay to vote for Democrats resolution. We can talk about how they voted for the resolution committee doubling down on resolution 9 by validating all of the arguments in a resolution that the woke evangelicals have been making. Again, it was nuts. It was a terrible, disastrous convention if you were in any way orthodox in your theology. And it's not that sex abuse shouldn't be investigated, but we should have a clue of what we're investigating, not some vague outcome, but an event that we're investigating, not an outcome that we're fishing for. And that's basically what this investigation is. It's a fishing expedition. And I think they will find something. Ronnie Floyd, I think, is a pretty shady character, but now, isn't Ronnie Floyd, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, is not Ronnie Floyd connected to the Duggars? Isn't he their pastor? Well, so I think you can make the case that, this guy might be shady on this issue, but all the members of the Southern Baptist Executive Committee. So if I were in this executive committee, I'd leave. If I were in the Southern Baptist Convention, I would have already left by now. And there's nothing worth saving in this convention, because you guys are about to get opened up by pagan lawyers, and that's not going to be a pretty outcome. And we'll have more coverage on this issue, but for now, that's all I got to say. My name is Ray. This is the Evangelical Dark Web, and if you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel. And if you really like this kind of content, also support evangelicaldarkweb.org at evangelicaldarkweb.org/join. That's a bit of a Patreon-like system that we set up because Patreon censors conservative Christian content at times. So we set up our own system, and you can become a member there. And if you're a peacemaker, you get to be on a panel for an upcoming town hall. But that's our highest tier. So that's all I got to say about that. My name is Ray. This is the Evangelical Dark Web. And comment below what you think about what I think, and I will catch you on the next one.